Hi, welcome back to my channel. Listen, it's been a very long time since you and I have had a conversation about Star Wars and what has happened and what is going to happen with the story, with the genre, with the franchise of Star Wars and where it's headed. Now, you've, like I have probably seen the trailer for the upcoming installment film, The Rise of Skywalker, is what they've chosen to title this film. I have my own ideas about why I think they've chosen this title, um, and I'm going to go into that. I'm going to go into my reaction to watching the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. I've intentionally stayed away from YouTube on this matter and everybody's fan theories, and I know that there's a lot of them probably out there, and I'll have some fun digging into what those are at some point. But to this point, I have stayed away from all of it. I want to take my reaction to the trailer, though, in the greater context of what it is that Luke Skywalker accomplished in the story of the Force itself, in the story of the Jedi religion, because what he was accomplishing in those films that you and I watched as kids growing up, in A New Hope, in The Empire Strikes Back, in Return of the Jedi, what he accomplished was actually a lot more than just, as the film was sort of dealing with larger issues, but in a personal context, didn't have time to sort of dig into, that you and I had sort of been thinking about for, a long time. Like, well, now we want to see play out the things that he was actually accomplishing in those confrontations and in those moments. Now we get to see the fruit of it play out in future films. Of course, we were robbed of all of that in the Disney version franchise films that have come out. I'll go into that a little bit later and what I think is happening with this last film. But what I really want to sort of front load this conversation with is what was going on with the Force. What was going on in the Jedi religion? What was it that Luke Skywalker accomplished when he was confronting Darth Vader and confronting Palpatine? And in this conversation, I'm not going to be drawing from any of the expanded universe material, which Disney has rendered meaningless anyway. I'm only going to be drawing from what you and I watched in the films that were released and produced by George Lucas. Okay. I would say, in the context of the Jedi religion, a couple of the things that stand out to me watching the films that were going on with the Jedi religion, that had become entrenched in tradition, entrenched in their philosophy, and formed weak spots, if you will, in the practice, weak spots in the theology, or however you want to term religious terms you want to subscribe to, in the practice of the Jedi religion. One of those issues that comes to mind is elevating personal perspectives over objective truth. Personal opinions, or as a way to sort of navigate situations rather than just relying on objective truth, and in the context of a relationship to deal with difficult issues. In other words, fudging the truth. Fudging the truth, you see it as probably one of the biggest examples of it, and there's more than one, but I'm just thinking of this one right now, and that is Obi-Wan Kenobi fudging on the truth with a young Luke Skywalker about what happened with his father. And then, of course, he has to, they have to, have this conversation in a later film about, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me the truth? See, because it potentially could have caused a rift in the relationship. That's what happens when, and you and I have experienced it, when important things are withheld, and a story is spun in a certain direction, and it becomes a fabrication. It becomes a lie. And then there's a breach in the relationship because of it. Now, again, to the credit of the character of Luke Skywalker, the Luke Skywalker as envisioned and created by George Lucas and delivered by Mark Hamill, okay, that Luke Skywalker, to his credit, when he discovered that his own mentor, the one that he latched onto almost like as a father figure in his life, Obi-Wan Kenobi, when he discovered that his own mentor had lied to him and had disappointed him and let him down, didn't trust him enough to tell him the truth, instead of severing the relationship, instead of becoming offended and going on, forging his own path and saying, I don't need this and I don't need you or your lies or whatever. See, Luke Skywalker, the real Luke Skywalker, had the kind of character that he could extend grace, that he could weigh in the balance the value of everything that Obi-Wan had given him and everything that Obi-Wan meant to him, and say, you know what this man has given me outweighs my disappointment. And even though it's in a key, crucial area, my love for him outweighs my offense in this issue with his character. See, that's the kind of Luke Skywalker that you and I watched in the films, in the original films. But this was an issue in the Jedi religion, because then he comes back. What does Obi-Wan say? Well, a lot of what we believe in has a lot to do with our own personal perspective. See, he's still, even after death, still clinging on to these ideas that had become entrenched in their tradition or entrenched in their philosophy or their theology, that it was acceptable practice to fudge the truth and twist things so that your personal perspective on them sort of trumps what's really true. That was a really that's a weak spot in the religion. I think another glaring weak spot in the Jedi religion is that divesting oneself of attachment, divesting oneself of even things such as love, and we saw this play out in a conversation in one of the prequels between Anakin and Padme, right, where he's having this conversation, because Anakin is in fact wrestling with this part of his vows, his Jedi vows. The Jedi religion has so latched onto this idea of removing all desire, removing all emotion, removing even love itself from the equation, that it creates a conflict in Anakin. And as a side note here, something that I haven't brought up in previous videos, something that I wish that George had worked into the prequels on this topic, because the character of Anakin Skywalker wrestles with this issue most directly in the area of love, right? The love, the feelings that he has for Padme. Something that I wish in the writing of it. Um, there's a classic sort of forbidden love romantic story um, that was turned into a TV miniseries about a man who was a Catholic priest who falls in love with a woman, and he's now wrestling with his vows. Um, and I wish that I wish that there was more here. That George had drawn more from maybe other works or other ideas that have tackled this issue, that in the character of Anakin Skywalker that there was more of a struggle for him um, in terms of am I going to take a hold of my love for this woman, or am I going to, which love am I going to let win here? Because these two things that I love seem to be mutually in conflict with each other. His love of becoming a Jedi, it was something he said even as a child. I dreamed of this as a child. It's something that's always been with me. And now he has embraced this thing that he loves of taking this unique gift, this skill that he has of being a Jedi, of incredible power, and being a servant to his society, being a servant to the Republic, and all that goes with that role that he's taken on. And now it's in conflict with something else that is awakening in him, and that's something called love. And he doesn't know how to reconcile these. Something that I wish had been done in the prequels was I wish there had been more of a conflict written into the character of Anakin Skywalker about his relationship with Padme. I think if they had just dragged that piece of the story out a little bit more and focused on that, because it seemed like in the prequels, maybe you might agree or disagree, it seemed like in the prequels that in the writing it was just like, I love this woman, and I'm going to toss everything out. And there was no conflict in Anakin about what it was he was going to be giving up. He just decided, I love her, and I'm going to keep it a secret. There wasn't really much of a conflict for him. I think it would have come across as more realistic if George had spent more time and created more of a conflict in Anakin about even having the relationship. I think that would have been great. Okay, back onto the main thing, and that is that this one issue of love becomes the catalyst for Anakin to be propelled into a series of bad decisions, because the tradition of the Jedi religion is that marriage, love, all these things are not allowed, not permitted, not acceptable. And now he's doing it, and he's trying to keep it a secret at the same time. And now it becomes the catalyst for his fall from grace and fall into the dark side, and his emergence as Darth Vader. So this problem in the Jedi religion of complete divestment of all attachment, complete divestment of even love itself, and creating a tradition in which the Jedi are not permitted to love, not permitted to marry, not permitted to have a family, creates an issue that decimates the entire religion and throws the galaxy into a tyranny run by a Sith Lord. Okay, Now, Luke Skywalker, so when Luke Skywalker comes along, right, and now he's processing through his mentorship by Obi-Wan and Grandmaster Yoda, not only in those key moments when he is confronting Darth Vader and the Emperor, what is it that allows Luke Skywalker to emerge triumphant from this massive confrontation? It is love. See, what Luke Skywalker discovers, because of the kind of character that we were given through George Lucas and through Mark Hamill, is a character that's not only conquering the evil that is running the galaxy, that is not only conquering Darth Vader and conquering the Emperor, but is also addressing the issues in the Jedi religion that landed the galaxy at this point to begin with. Addressing the weaknesses in the Jedi religion that landed this whole story where it is. And Luke Skywalker discovers that instead of using hatred or that sort of thing and fear, but that he tosses aside his lightsaber and he says, "I'm not going to fight you," because it's his father, and he loves his father even in spite of the fact of everything that he's done up to this point, the genocide and all of that. And it is then that he awakens Anakin to the point where in his final moments, Anakin is able to take the Emperor and throw him down into that shaft and rescue his son and free himself. And we see that happen, but you see what's happening is Luke is discovering that love is not a problem. Love is actually a solution to the problem in the Jedi religion. That all emotion is not a bad thing. That love is not a bad thing. In fact, love is the thing that when a Jedi embraces it, can propel them into a place to conquer the darkest of evils. And see, this was the piece here where Luke Skywalker emerges as not just a hero who rescues, the galaxy because he, defeats evil in the throne room of the Emperor, but because he also discovers the key to reforming the Jedi religion. See, and this is the exciting piece that you and I were waiting all of these years to see, that Luke Skywalker would go on to bring a Jedi religion out from the ashes of destruction and restructure it in a way so that he could deal with the weaknesses, deal with traditions that were not good, that were creating problems and weaknesses, and reform it. Instead of burning it all down, he had the keys to change it. And that's what you and I were looking forward to seeing in the greater story of the Force and the Jedi religion play out. Was now Luke Skywalker is able to bring forward a Jedi religion that that now is able to harness truth and love as key elements that that will, you know, propel the galaxy into a great place, into a place where there's freedom, and propel the Jedi into becoming more capable servants of the Republic. Anyway, what you and I wound up with was something entirely different, because um, J.J. Abrams left it into the hands of others to tell us what happened, and then we got Rian Johnson. Evidently, there wasn't an overarching story decided upon, and Rian Johnson gave us a Luke Skywalker that Mark Hamill said, I don't even know who this is. This is like Jake Skywalker. This is against everything that I know to be Luke Skywalker. Because we were given a Luke that abandons all of these principles, abandons all of these things that he's discovered, and instead he gives us a Luke that he hasn't read. We're supposed to believe that Luke Skywalker has not even read all of these books and materials that he's been, you know, the origins of the Jedi religion, and now it's all burned down, and that's his only goal. And he abandons everyone that he cares about, and like this was the opposite. Luke was to be the one, because he'd already begun the Reformation. The Reformation of the Jedi religion began in his confrontation with Darth Vader and the Emperor. He was just going to carry it forward into the future, and we were going to get to see what that was going to look like. We never got to see any of that. In fact, we got a Luke that was nothing like the Luke Skywalker that George Lucas and Mark Hamill created for us. So that's a huge problem in the entire storyline of Star Wars and the Force and the Jedi religion. Huge problem. And of course, we know that not only did Rian Johnson destroy and gut the character of Luke Skywalker, but killed him off. So there you go. I don't know how JJ is going to try to rescue this story from the toilet that Rian Johnson threw it into. You know, if I was, you know, one of the individuals that knows J.J. Abrams, I would have just told him, look, you know, Rian Johnson gave you nothing. He literally not only did not use anything from the story you created, but he pitched your script over his shoulder with the lightsaber that he put in Luke Skywalker's hands. He did not respect anything that you made. You don't need to use anything that Rian Johnson created either. In fact, I would have suggested he make it a dream sequence and have her wake up on the island with the real Luke Skywalker, and now he trains her, because that was to be Luke Skywalker's next role, right? We weren't coming into this expecting Luke to be, you know, the swashbuckling hero. What we wanted to see was Luke Skywalker now move into the role of the mentor, the Obi-Wan, the Yoda, and he could now give Rey the guidance that she would need to propel her through her story. That was what we wanted to see. We wanted it to still be Luke Skywalker, you know what I mean? We were given something terrible. Now they've gone and they've labeled, now onto this trailer, they've labeled it Rise of Skywalker. Okay, I think, I'm sorry to be cynical here, but I can't help but believe that by calling it the Rise of Skywalker, this is marketing. Naked marketing to reel in people like you and me who grew up with this and know that we were handed a plate full of steaming garbage with The Last Jedi to get us back into the theater to give them our money. Because, well, maybe by calling it The Rise of Skywalker, what they mean is they're going to try to redeem and undo what Rian Johnson did. I don't, I don't have hope, I'm sorry to say, that that's actually what's going to happen. Here's what I think they're going to do in The Rise of Skywalker. Unfortunately, and I hope that I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong on this. But I'm going to tell you what I think that they're going to do. I think JJ is going to, in fact, double down on what Rian Johnson is proposed in his film and say, look, the problem with everything that has happened thus far in the Star Wars universe is the existence of the Skywalker family itself. The Skywalkers are the problem by virtue of their existence, and the only way that we can move forward with the Star Wars story and the Star Wars universe is to sort of crucify the Skywalkers and eliminate them out of the story because they are the problem. I think the Rise of Skywalker simply means this, that they are going to take Kylo Ren and have the disembodied spirit, or he somehow gets in touch with either the teachings of or the disembodied spirit of Palpatine, Darth Sidious, and he's going to tell him, I created the Skywalkers. I am the reason that you exist, and your entire purpose is to be the embodiment of the dark side. And so Kylo Ren's going to go give himself fully into the dark side because that's going to be the story, that the Skywalkers were a creation of the dark side. And I think they're just going to use that as an umbrella to sort of explain away why Luke has this insane fall from grace and turns his back on everything he believes, is because somehow, you know, in the very DNA of the entire Skywalker family is this inescapable gravity towards failure and darkness, and they'll just never escape it. And that's why we just need to get rid of all the Skywalkers and start over. And if that's the case, then I just want to go on record and say, I think that's terrible and didn't need to happen. Completely not where we wanted to see these stories go. I hope that I'm wrong, and I guess we'll have to see what actually plays out. But if that's the case, man, then not only did Rian Johnson do what he did in our films, but then you're going to have J.J. Abrams just sort of explain it away. Well, you know, it had to be that way because they were just, you know, they were the problem. And I think that that's tragic. I think that that steals so much from all of us who were a part of this from day one, and from everything that George intended and that Mark Hamill delivered to us over the course of all those years. I hope that I'm wrong, but I guess we'll see. Hey, thanks for watching this. If you agree or disagree, you know, upvote or downvote or whatever, put some comments below. Maybe you got something else out of this trailer that I'm not seeing, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts were after you watched the trailer. Thanks for watching.